Good evening. Ooh, look, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, no matter where in the world you might be. We are back. It's game time this weekend. It's big time game time. No messing about, no room for error. And the Arsenal boys are going to need the fans. It's Tactical Squad, and the boys are back in town. Here we go. Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another live edition of the Highbury Squad right here on the YouTube channel. If you are listening on replay, thank you so much for making us part of your day. And also, if you are listening on audio on iTunes, Spotify, or Acast, we hope you're well and we appreciate you tuning in. Squaddies, I salute you, we salute you, and at ease, everybody. The boys are back in town. Mr. Josh, it's AKA Arsenal v Brighton, aka the Josh Derby. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. It's always a difficult conversation in the office when someone says, "So, Josh, which team are you supporting this weekend?" And I go, "It's pretty easy. It's Arsenal." One team is going to piss me off when they concede, and let's put it this way: it's not going to be Brighton.
I love it. And also back in the game again is Mr. James Johnson. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, thank you so much. And just quick, if I could take maybe a minute or so, I'll try and do it as quick as I can. Obviously, few people know why I've been away. I just want to appreciate your, community that you've got, yourself, Kevin, everybody else that's had kind words to say. I really appreciate it. And also, the last time I was here, it was just before I went to watch the UFC in London. And you and Kevin's got a big reach. I must say, I was at the pub watching the Villa game. People in the pub knew who I was, talking to me about you and Kevin in the podcast. I go to the UFC. There's fighters there you can speak to, actual people that have got a semblance of fame. Yeah, I was getting questioned. Oh, I love Highbury Squad. Oh, this is brilliant. I'm like, he wins fights for a living. I'm like, this is... Oh, you want to talk to me?
I love it. That is pretty epic.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that report.
I did not realize the reach until you get random people that know who you are at UFC.
This happens to Josh when he goes to the zoo, doesn't it, Josh?
Well, there we go.
Well, what can I say? Clearly, James looks far more approachable than I do when I'm out in public. It's never happened to me.
Yeah, I think I was the least threatening person watching UFC. That's why they approached me.
That's pretty epic. Well, we hope Mum's doing well, and we send her lots of love and hugs, and very proud of you and your brother. Looking after Mum, you boys done her proud, so we're glad that she's doing a lot better, and it's great to see you back. And Josh is moving, but look, he's got no boxes in the background. He's done absolutely bugger all, and we are the beneficiaries of that because he's here to talk tactics instead of packing, Mr. Josh.
Yeah,
I like
absolutely. There's before anybody asks, no, I'm not moving into the zoo. I think I'll get in that one pretty swiftly. I'm not moving closer. I'm actually moving further away from my nearest zoo, which is a bit of a shame. But
I love it.
Who knows? Maybe there's a menagerie or something nearby that I can pop into that will help instead.
I love it. Well, good luck with that as well, and thanks. I know how busy you guys are, and thanks for everyone who's checked in on James and been asking where Josh is. Well, they're back, and they're back with a bang. Talk about baptism of fire in terms of coming back. We've got injuries to Tierney. We've got an injury to Thomas Partey. Who knows when he's going to be back? Something tells me that he might not either. But as you know, when Kev isn't here to grill your little tactical, I was going to use a word there and I decided not to because it was going to be so inappropriate. When Kev isn't here to grill you on your tactics, he does send a video and we always start with that first. So let's start with what Kev is asking you guys and then we can jump right in to your squads. And be prepared, you guys, for Kev's outfit today. It's fire.
Sophie, James, Josh, and the squaddies. How you doing? Hope you're okay. So, this is going to be very brief, guys. I'm intrigued to know what teams you're going to choose, personnel-wise. But here's the question. Would you play all of our weapons? Martinelli, Smith-Rowe, Saka, Lacazette, all in offensive positions. Would you do that? Get them on the pitch? Or would Pepe come into it? I'm intrigued to know, guys. Definitely intrigued to know. Got reality checked at Palace, but now is how we respond. How do you, James, and how do you, Josh, respond? It's your team. All the very best. Take good care, and I look forward to watching the episode on the podcast. Sophie, James, Josh, squaddies, at ease. Look after yourselves.
Does it get any smoother than that?
His
Does it
shoulders
get any
get
sharper?
bigger every week. Every week his shoulders. I don't, and that's not the suit as well. I know he said he's on a new program a few shows ago. His shoulders are insane.
I think he's
Absolutely
benching
insane.
I think he's just bench pressing the weight of Everton Football Club on his shoulders right now.
You're gonna feel them shoulders, mate. The power's gonna connect.
I will, but I think if I came on here, Kev was going to get it one way or another. I've been watched him last night up on there. Yeah, he was very quiet after that result.
He's going to listen back to this.
Be
Be prepared. You just ruined your chances of being followed, I think.
Why do you think I'm moving house so quickly?
It's Dicky Bow Thursday, Willow. That's why. That's exactly why. And exactly what a guy. Right, let's get stuck into it. You guys have missed your tactical squad. They're here. So Kev's question, I'll put your squads up first, shall I? And then we can get stuck into this a little bit. I thought it was a really fascinating question that he asked. Talk about all guns blazing and go gung-ho for it. So I'll put both your squads up, and then Josh will start with you, and then James, I'll start with you. So this is James's squad, and we'll get to it. He's got Nuno, Gabriel, Rambo 2.0, of course, White, Cedric, Sambi, Odegaard, Xhaka, Smith-Rowe, Martinelli, and Saka. Now, these guys' squad don't differ. They're both keeping faith with Nuno. And as you can see, maybe a little bit of a different formation. But Mr. Josh has Emile Smith-Rowe up front. Both of you have dropped Lacazette, and I didn't tell them anything about Kev's question. So this is fascinating. Josh, let's kickstart with you. Why Emile Smith-Rowe up front? And, of course, address Super Kev's question.
Oh, well, the reason why I've got Smith-Rowe up front is because I want to score some goals. That's why. That's the one thing we were missing from last week. And I think the big thing for me playing against Brighton right now, can I go for a second dig of Everton? I can. Yeah, I'm going to do it. I was going to say they were the 19th worst team in the league this season, but on form right now. But actually, I think they're now the 18th worst team. I haven't won since February. Been atrocious. It's really awful.
Why? What's happened? Have they got injuries? I don't know.
The one thing that happened was in January, we got a huge bid for Dan Burn. And at the time, you're thinking, okay, well, we've got cover at centre-back at the moment. Ross, we don't have it for the next game. We've got Webster coming back. Dunk's due back soon. That's fine. That builds out that back three. Dunk then had another issue, and Webster's still injured. He's not going to come back again. He might make the bench for this game. I imagine he'll actually just probably play in the under-23s if they've got a game in the next couple of games. But basically, Dan Burn would have been a proper centre-back. Instead, what they're doing with the back three is they're playing Cucurella there. And if anybody saw Cucurella at the beginning of the season, you're thinking, God, what a player. What a guy. What a left-back. He'd fit in any team, I think, in the Premier League. Would happily have him as a starting left-back in in the league. Probably bias. There's probably some Scottish guy at Liverpool that might kind of go into the left back ahead of him. But otherwise, superb left wing back. He's not a left centre back. And then also on the other side of Lewis Dunk, you've got Joel Veltman, who is a good player. He's kind of one of those that can play as right centre back, but really he's kind of a right back, or maybe a right wing back. So you've got that issue. And then you've got old cocky pants in goal. Sanchez had a falling out with Shane Duffy. So Shane Duffy's not in the lineup at the moment. So we're a defender down.
Wow. So there's a lot going on, not only injuries, but also, are you saying some
Falling
maybe
out.
argy-bargy in the dressing room?
Oh, it wasn't in the dressing room. It was on the pitch. Sanchez was not happy with some choice defending from Shane Duffy. Unfortunately, Potter chooses to pick Sanchez rather than the second choice goalkeeper, who's Jason Steele. That's personally what a lot of Brighton fans have been calling for, is Jason Steele to get a go in goal, because Sanchez's form is fallen off a cliff. He's lost the kind of confidence he had, but it's been replaced with arrogance or cockiness. So he's trying stuff that's just not coming off. So he's not the same goalkeeper that you've seen earlier in the season. So that's where I think there's options to get around it, and I want that movement in place. Whilst I was kind of think about what Lacazette does for the team. What I want is the guy that can come short, but that can run as well, burst past that defence, because you've got some quick centre backs, quick defenders in and around the box for Brighton. That's going to be the issue. Is there'll probably be Lamptey there, who is quick, he can cover. So I want to get Martinelli in there, pushing him back, rather than having Smith Rowe, who I think not necessarily the one I want pushing back. Nuno there, then on the overlap. Those are the big things I want to see, rather than Pepe, who's been away with illness. He's your kind of 60 minutes in. Brighton are still defending well. That's one thing that they can do. Still, is they're still quite good at nullifying teams. This isn't up there with the performances that I've witnessed against Palace or against especially Chelsea, where defensively they were amazing, but you can break them down. If you've got a player that knows how to take a shot from just outside the box, you're not always going to get closed down. So there is that opportunity just to bend one into the far corner, and that's where Nicolas Pepe I would expect to come in.
So what you're saying is now is a really good time to play for Brighton, or Brighton are due? I mean, we could look at it both ways. It's a little bit scary. Good evening to 100 plus of you in chat as well tonight. Keep your comments coming and let us know what your starting 11 looks like. I'm going to put some stuff up for the boys in just a minute. Josh, is it a case of both, or are they really just in a terrible place?
I can't see where Brighton's next win comes from to the end of the season. Maybe Leeds, and that's the penultimate game. After Arsenal, they've got Spurs away, City away, Southampton at home, which is always a bogey game, Wolves away, and then it's into May, where you've got Man United at home, and then it's Leeds away, and then West Ham is the final game of the season at home. And I can't see where the next 3 points come from for them, because they're so blunt in attack and there's so many players that are out of form. It's a combination of, and I think as Arsenal fans and Arsenal fan base, you'll understand this. Remember when we had that moment where all of our players only had 18 months left on their contract and the team just went really stale and static? It's the same thing. Trossard, Mopé, Basuma, Alexis McAllister, all on their final 18 months of their contract. Welbeck's on his final year. Lallana's only got a year left as well. It's really a squad that either needs some kind of continuity, someone to go, bang, here's a new contract, or bang, you're off.
Yeah, real apathy set in, and you can see that. And like Lynn said, Graham Potter's interview this afternoon, he did not appear to be very happy at all.
One reason why he's not that happy is because he had a go at the Brighton fans and they all had to go back. He said earlier in the week, if anybody saw it after the game, that all the Brighton fans should stop shouting shoot at the players because it's putting them off.
Oh, poor babies.
After they had 28 shots against Norwich and missed a penalty and it was 0-0.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And here's a team that everyone was kind of lauding at the start of the season. Of course, Graham Potter being attached to multiple jobs, including the Arsenal, James. Before we get to your comments, I'm just going to put up some responses here. Gooner Rose says, White right back, Holding, Gabby and Cedric. Left back, Xhaka, Sambi, Odegaard, Martinelli, Saka and Pepe. Eddie up front, maybe. Gooner Colt says, Tavares is also not a left back. He's the definition of a wing back to me. Him in a back four for Brighton is okay, but against a better team, he's a defensive liability. Anik says, this Coco guy was really good against us earlier in the season. Lynn wants to add that she'd put a slight change, putting ESI and Pepe up front as well. And one more here, Mr. Saturday. How are Arsenal signing a player that played 14 and 11 league games in the prior 2 seasons for 8 million? Just doesn't add up for me. And Sai wants to remind Super Kev that he's been telling him to play Smith Rowe against a fast-paced Palace. Should have started Martinelli versus Palace. Right, James, I'm going to keep your comments coming in. I've made a note of them and I'll keep putting them up, you guys. This is your squad. Let everyone know why Martinelli up front and what your thoughts are on Kev's question.
So why Martinelli up front's easy. Lacazette in his last 10 games has had 30 shots on goal in open play and only 4 of them have found the target. So that's roughly 13%. So that's we need goals. And for all of the hard work and everything that he does, we just need the ball to go in the back of the net. And for me at the moment, I think the players that we've got around him are literally crying out for someone that's got more of a faster movement in between the lines than what Lacazette provides. If you look at all the chances that we had against Palace, bar the one where Nketiah hit the post, the majority of it come from the balls that were played in behind, and then your Saka, your Smith Rowe were following it in and then tucking it, and unfortunately didn't get the goals. But that's the kind of play that they want, and Martinelli is that player in abundance. I think we desperately need to get it changed up front there. And there's a lot of argument that I saw about, oh yeah, but if you take Lacazette away, this team really, really lacks a big leader and someone that I'm like, the guy's going to go in 9 games time. Do you know what I mean? He's gone. He is gone. So
you don't think there's a chance that he signs that?
No.
Yeah, no. I don't.
No, because we're only going to go. You can have a 1 or a 2 year,
yeah.
And he can easily get. And that's the thing as well. I mentioned it at the time. Aubameyang had to go. All that's coming back now, which for me is silly. He had to go. He had to, because it just wasn't working out for both sides. So to think at that time that Lacazette and Eddie were your two, you were going to stick with them and not bring another, that you can, point the finger of blame at. That I agree with. You can go, yeah, that was a bit negligent. But also, if you thought they were both going to overexert themselves for the team when both of them are leaving, then that you should take blame for as well. But for me, when I go to the chicken shop and he says to me, do you want breast or thigh? I don't go personality. I don't want to mess around. I don't want to do 5 at the back. I don't want to do this. Ben White at right back. This one over here. You over there. He bought these 2 players in the summer. If he doesn't back his signings when we need them the most, he's going to look even more of an idiot than some people think he's an idiot now. He has to back his... This week, after Monday, I hope in training, he's gone with Nuno and with Sambi, and literally every pass, oh, that's brilliant, that's a great pass. Every shot that they've had, if it goes in, that's a great goal. Literally G them up all week. You 2 are my boys, and we're going out there Saturday and we're rolling. And
that's one thing that heavily frustrated me in the weeks before the international break was how those 2 were not getting minutes.
Yeah.
10 minutes here and there is all you need, because you know how key those 2 positions are to us. Just take the other 2 guys out for a bit. We see them as both one for the future. We know Tierney likes to have the occasional 5-6 weeks out. Thomas Partey, again, we know that there's a reason we bought Sambi. That's one of the criticisms of the manager that I would hold against him. But it's also one of those issues that if we qualify for Europe, will go away because he'll be forced to do it through European fixtures.
So, you know what's really interesting with what you guys are saying, and James, to your point, is Pepe was benched when he had good games, right? So are we saying here that he doesn't care so much about how it looks when he benches Pepe because it wasn't his signing, you know? And with Nuno and Sambi, it's, you know, it's his signing, it's a Deuce signing, they're their players. Are we saying that he kind of, we don't know how he looks at it, but it does make sense because managers do that, don't they? Because in my opinion, I said to Kev, I'd be shocked if Nuno played another game for Arsenal ever again. But with what you guys are saying, it makes sense completely that if he doesn't, then he has complete egg on his face.
Yeah.
I'd also say earlier this season, Nuno was our best left back. Tierney was not at it earlier in the season, and when he had that injury period at the beginning of the season, Nuno came in and we saw a raw talent, and we still see a raw talent. The only difference is he keeps getting hooked after 35, 40 minutes, which I don't think is necessarily helpful.
I know, James, you have strong feelings about that too, and to answer the question, my question, and also the Nuno Tierney argument, because you're firmly in.
Just going back first, when you mentioned Pepe wasn't getting minutes because, like you said, there was a signing that they made for a certain man from Chelsea, who they were like, we're back. I'm going to keep proving you that I haven't signed this dud, and he's not as rubbish as you all keep telling me. It's the whole, shiny new toy principle. I like this one. Oh, I've got a new. Oh, see you later. I'm going to play with that now. Pepe, for however good of a player I think he is, and I think he could be quite important in the running, because we saw towards the end of last season when he was trying to rescue things on his own a bit. But yeah, that's comment just there. Sometimes he doesn't fancy Pepe anymore. He just doesn't see Pepe as an option to start, because I think he feels that defensively he still doesn't track back enough and everything for him, which we're going to need. We're going to really, really need. We need a player that does both of that.
But also, you both have stuck with Nuno because these are your squads. You're not picking who you think Arteta's going to pick.
No.
And also, there's been. I'll read some of the squaddies' comments out here too. Let's see. Ramsdale, I think we got that one. ESR Force 9. Again, Matt Roberts says, don't know if Smith Rowe could cope with the physicality of Brighton's defence, but could outpace them.
There's no physicality in that Brighton defence anymore. Lewis Dunk's the only defender with physicality there.
All right. Okay, Richard says, although Laka doesn't score, we can't afford to ditch him. He's central to how we play. You guys have both given your reasons why Smith Rowe and Martinelli would start up front. And there's a comment in here from someone I know from a few people saying they do not think for a second that Arteta is going to drop Lacazette.
No, he's
James?
not. No, he's not. Because like I said, it's that whole he's too vital as a lead. He's too big of an influence on the group. But like I read out, we're crying. We are crying for goals. And at the moment, I'm picking based on form. And yeah, he's still got less league goals than Aubameyang has. And Aubameyang's been gone since January. We are literally desperate. And I still think, like I said, it's all about the movement. We do these great bits of play, but then you'll see Lacazette and he's further behind Odegaard sometimes. And it's like you need someone sprinting into that box to get on the end of, most of the goals that Palace scored against us the other night was because they had people following in. That's what we need to be doing. Smith Rowe's brilliant for that. He's great at getting a second ball or a third ball, and chasing those lost sort of causes. Martinelli's great at that as well. And that's more of that we need to do.
Yeah. Keep those comments coming in, you guys. Some really good ones. A lot about Nuno that I'm putting up from the squaddies as well. Do you have, because Josh, James, you've got Gabby way up front, and Josh is Smith Rowe. Do you have Martinelli on the left? Because James was just talking about the tracking back and one versus the other, what one offers going forward, the movement, etc. Martinelli is a lot better at tracking back than Emile Smith Rowe, in my opinion. We've seen him kind of go in and have some fantastic interventions when it comes to even being in the box and being in the box at the right time in certain games. Is that why you have preferred him? You didn't mention that part when you were talking about the why.
Yeah, I think Martin might be a few seasons away from being a centre forward if that's his chosen position. There's a lot to be said now for goal scoring wingers. You look at the architectural one is Liverpool. You look at Mane and Salah. That's where their main threats comes from, the wing. Going even further afield to PSG, Mbappe, he's now transferred into a striker, but had incredible seasons as a winger. And I think if he does end up at Real Madrid, he'll be playing as a winger there as well, with Benzema up front. And exactly the same he does for the French national team. That's where I see Martinelli. He is in that kind of mould of player that, yeah, he could end up playing centre forward, but I think his all-round game as a winger is where I'd prefer to see him. It's that additional runner in the box as well. We know that Smith Rowe loves to get into the box. Saka, not necessarily wants to do that. Odegaard is similar as well, doesn't always follow in the shot. But I like Martinelli's run from deep when he does that. And that's what I want to kind of maintain, is having that option there. Rather than having him as that number 9. We're not going to challenge this team in the air. I don't think it's ever been really, it's not really part of our game plan. Even if Lacazette was there, every cross would be won by Lewis Dunk anyway. What you'd rather have is a guy who's going to sit and play off the right centre back instead, the smaller guy, have a go at him, and that's what I'd be looking at doing instead, is having Martinelli at the back post. I think is far more of a threat than having him centrally and then someone like ESR out there.
George, why don't you let us know your opinion if you can do better? Yeah? How about that? Why don't you just jump in and let us know what you're thinking? That would be lovely. Amira, we put the good, the bad, and the ugly up, as you know. We don't hide from anyone at Squad Central. Which do you think, James, one for you, which do you think is riskier? Playing our backups in the system we've been playing for consistency, even if they'll need time, or changing the system to suit who we have available?
Changing it. I think changing it. It's too, for me, it's too far into a season to completely change formation and then potentially start putting, square pegs in round holes. Stick with the backups. We signed them for a reason. We signed them with the fact that eventually they're going to develop and potentially replace the people that are starters. Mm-hmm. This is your time. This is your time. If you remember years and years ago, we had Debuchy playing right back. He got his shoulder popped out by Arnautovic, I think it was, from Stoke, pushing him over. Bellerin come in and we never looked back. Okay, now Bellerin's probably a bad example now, but at the time when Bellerin come through, everybody was like, what a great player this guy is. Oh my word, what a player. So for me, you got to back them. You signed them and you got to play them. And for me, I think, like Josh has said earlier, Brighton is a good sort of side to put Nuno out there and say, look, redeem yourself for what happened the other night. And for me, I can't believe the flack that Nuno's getting, because earlier on in the year, he was better than Kieran Tierney. Kieran Tierney was rubbish. He was terrible. So it just seems, like I've always said, we have got a very reactionary fan base, but it's like it's a complete 180 from him having, most of them had a dreadful game against Palace. Yet it seems to Nuno's the one that's singled out for it. I think there was worse players than him that played it, but I thought Gabriel was shocking. But because he's a few players' favourites compared to Nuno gets the flack.
I've got a question for James. Sorry, did you contemplate taking Gabriel out of your side? Because I did.
Yeah, okay. A few people did. Yeah, no, not for me. Not for me.
You know what's interesting to me is the question of when a team collectively plays that bad. I always, Kev always says it's the players, right? But also, man management is so fundamentally important when you have the youngest team in the Premier League. And the reason why I didn't lose my marbles when we lost to Crystal Palace was because in my sense, I'm thinking, look, we've still got 9 games to go. We've got the youngest team in the Premier League who are fighting for a top 4 place, who are close to Chelsea, who are above Manchester United right now, who apparently were going to win the league when Cristiano Ronaldo signed for them and Sancho signed for them. You've got the greatest thing since sliced bread, according to the British media, in Harry Kane, and he and Son were being celebrated because of their partnership and breaking records. And here we are, a team that everyone poo-pooed their summer signings and have so many young players, including homegrown players who have come through, who have the opportunity still to qualify for a Champions League spot. And so for me, with regards to Arteta, who's done a great job bringing this whole team together, but I think also we've got players just built differently who have come together as well. He deserves credit. They all deserve credit. Is how he's been managing some of these younger players. For example, really, I think, wanted to wipe the slate clean with the Wenger signings as much as possible and the Emery signings. There's no doubt about that. Didn't really care to massage Guendouzi or figure out how can I work with this player. He's so talented. You know, ostracized him. Saliba, some issues with regards to maybe personality and maturity, sends him to France, has been there almost 3 years. And Pepe gets sent off, lambasts him, and pats Xhaka on the backside when he gets sent off. You have a game against Crystal Palace that every single player, maybe barring Ramsdale or Cedric, deserved to be substituted at halftime. But once again, he singles out Nuno. And some people will say, well, Gabriel wasn't great because the way Nuno wasn't covering. He was exposing White and Gabriel. And in my mind, I'm like, well, I think they exposed themselves, you know, forgive the pun, but they did. And for me, I would have actually, the first substitution I would have made was I would have brought on Sambi for Thomas Partey at halftime. I thought Partey was absolutely horrific, you know, and I know that people would say, well, who would have played at left back? Well, you have choices. Kev always says Cedric can move into that position. Ben White can move to the right, or Saka can play left back. James, I'll start with you because of this conversation with regards to the younger players. I worry that Nuno's confidence has been killed. You guys said at the beginning, I hope he's been putting his arm around them and saying, you're my boys, you're my guys, you're the future. But I thought that making an example of a young player again over and over versus, you know, targeting maybe a Gabriel or a Partey, etc. That's still a concern to me in terms of Arteta's man management approach.
Yeah. I mean, we had to make an attacking change because, you've still got a half to maybe salvage a game. We could all tell it was over, but you've got to go with the intent to potentially salvage a game. So for me, at the time, I was a bit like, oh, he's hooked Nuno again. This might crush the. But at the same time, looking at it, who were you really? Because you do need to have that. I could see why he would rather have kept the experience in Partey and Gabriel on.
Partey was toast. I mean, there was.
I agree with you. I do agree with you, but I think he was just like, out of everything that I can change, this is the gamble that I'm going to make. So, and it clearly didn't come off.
What's your take, Josh? Because it's okay to take a gamble, but against Forest, I understood it. I wouldn't have subbed him before halftime. I would have waited until halftime. That's an embarrassment to any player and a confidence killer. And the guy's still young and he's still getting used to the game. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I'd ask the I asked the chat box of this. Remember back to when Swansea were in the Premier League? I'm going to name a fateful game. Callum Chambers up against Jefferson Montero. Remember that. Question is, do you leave Chambers on like Wenger did for the full 90 minutes and see him get roasted for 90 minutes? Or would you have taken him off at half time to save that guy the embarrassment of being roasted by a guy who then didn't really go on to do anything much with his career? And that's where I kind of sit with it as well. As it
Can I just jump in there real quick, and then you can. Kev says, "Let the player play through the pain." You know, the Brentford game, the Everton game. You know, some of those matches that we've had that have been horrific. Let them play through the pain. I don't know if he's allowed Nuno to do that. Go on. I just wanted to add what Kev has said in the past.
And I think that's where I'm kind of saying it depends what Arteta said to him when he's taking him off. And is it a case of, you know what, I still believe in you? And as James has said, depends on what that conversation is. If he's come off and said, oh yeah, mate, you were shit, that's why I'm sending you off, then probably not a great thing to have done. If he's taken him off and the wording's different, you know, it's like, you know what, not coping with what's happening right now, I'm going to change the system slightly. When we put Xhaka at left back instead, that allowed Arteta to potentially pivot to a back three. He couldn't do that with Nuno on the pitch. He could have done it if Tierney was there, because Tierney could play at left centre back. He does it for his national side. Nuno can't. So that's the thing that I think changed it. The other issue with Thomas Partey, that was just incredible. I think that we saw that performance from him. As we kind of say, it was like someone forgot to put air in the tyres of the Lamborghini before the wheels then fell off at 80 minutes. But I did also think he was, Conor Gallagher had a superb game, completely closed down Partey, didn't let him have time on the ball. And then I want to put a little bit of annoyance on the referee, who seemed to be blocking every single one of Thomas Partey's available passing lines for at least the first half. But I think that's the difference with an experienced player. He should be able to play through that issue, and he couldn't. But with Nuno, I think I want to see more from him. We won't necessarily think back to these games on a negative light. If it turns out this was for the better and, you know, next season or the season after, he's our starting left back at a Champions League club, and he is integral to everything we do.
I understand that. James, Name Block brings up an interesting point here. And again, this isn't a pop at the manager. It's just, if we're having a pop at the players for that performance, we're also, you know, dissecting the manager's performance. A lot of Arsenal fans feel like his biggest mistake was not starting Martinelli against Crystal Palace, because, you know, there wasn't that element of fear, there wasn't that element of pace and how to combat Palace on that flank as well, and the good things that Martinelli is able to do, you know, on and off the ball. Do you feel like there should be an improvement? He gets so much credit for how Saka's come along, how Emile Smith-Rowe has come along. Do you feel like, do you agree with what Name Blocked is saying here? Is he underdeveloped? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I mean, I think he had a very good spell, like we mentioned earlier, when he first come in. But then, obviously,
we're talking about now. We know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What's happened, and you know, I do feel that maybe the guy has got a massive lack of confidence. That's Nuno himself. I don't think the manager has a lack of confidence in him from the point of view of, you know, he signed him. So he's got, until obviously there's something in there that he's going to be sold and everything else, he's got to say, you know, he's got to be out there and say that he does believe in him and everything. And the problem for me is it's the old verbiage of Arsenal that when one of them is bad, it's like a set of dominoes. They all come falling down. They all fall down. So they've got to be so perfect. Otherwise, we're going to get a monumental collapse like we did against Palace. And this is the thing, you know, we got in a similar sort of position earlier in the season where we got slapped, and it sort of galvanized us and we come back. And that's what we need to do. Like I mentioned earlier, put your arm around the player, back the player. I will be really shocked if he does not start him on Saturday. I'll be really shocked, because I think he needs it. He keeps talking about the togetherness, and we win as a group and we lose as a group. well, that guy is part of your group, so you got to back him.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Troy wants to remind me when he told me Arteta would destroy the squad and would flop. We should have sacked him when he equaled our worst ever run in the history of the club and got Conte. This is the part with Troy where I can't agree. And I've been very critical. I have a humble pie baking in the oven, as you can hear. It's, the bleep, bleep, bleep you hear is every single second of every single day. The temperature rises just a little bit for me. And at this point, when we're still in the fight for top four and Europe hasn't been lost, I don't think we can say, though, it's not fair. This is coming out of my mouth. I don't think it's fair to say we should have sacked him here and we should have sacked him there because we're here. Yes, when we started off the season, we did with 3 games, no goals, 0 points. I mean, the reaction is, fans want instant gratification. And the reaction is, hold on a second, after, 2 seasons of 8th and getting kicked out of Europe by the man you replaced, and then starting off the season that way, huge, huge concerns. But also that team that didn't evolve and wasn't that team then that we know now. Look at the team against Brentford, completely different. Kolasinac was playing in that game. So I always said he's got to be given the opportunity with these players. I didn't kill Ramsdale or Benjamin White or Sambi when they came, or Nuno. They hadn't even kicked the ball for us yet. So the point is that, do we want to be in this fight for top 4 as a club? No, of course not. We want to be winning the Premier League. We want to be challenging. We want to be competitive, but we're just not there yet. We're not that team. And it's going to take a while for us to get that team. And I was actually on a Tottenham podcast as a guest yesterday. I made it. I had a shower afterwards and that felt nice, and then jumped into a little bit of a bubble bath too to just cleanse myself. But, we were even talking then about Liverpool and the process that Liverpool have gone through. So as much as I appreciate the fact that we have this open dialogue where we can say what we want, how we want, believe what you want. If you think he deserves to be sacked right now, that's fine. That's your opinion. But I just think that if we get to the end of the season and he's completely missed the Europa League and the Champions League, then for me, absolutely 100%.
Oh yeah, anything below 6th, considering where we were, you've got to have that question. That question has to be asked, because then you literally are, for want of a better word, you are bottle jobs.
Right.
Or Andrew, you are the bottle job.
Yeah. And also, yeah. Andrew, Jurgen Klopp is a far more experienced manager. When he came to Liverpool, he wasn't someone's cone man, as a lot of Arsenal fans say. He's winning things with Borussia Dortmund. He transformed Borussia Dortmund.
That Liverpool side also finished second the season before he was there.
With Brendan, they should have won the league.
Yeah, they were second before that. That was a good squad he inherited. Didn't inherit the basket case or bin fire that was the Arsenal squad that Arteta's dealt with. And even at our lowest ebb, we have got silverware. There's some clubs at their highest peak.
4.
Yeah. 4.
4 trophies in our darkest days, apparently. 4.
And even our darkest day under Arteta, we got a trophy. And I was going to say, you were on a podcast at their highest peak. They don't get trophies.
I had a dig, by the way. It felt so good.
I hope
it was so. I also brought up winning the league at White Hart Lane twice, and that's when I was asked to leave. But it was so worth it. It was fantastic. Okay, one thing we haven't talked about yet that I want to get stuck into. 200 of you in live chat on this fine evening. We'll get you out so you can watch the second half of the Europa League if you so wish. Can't wait for us to have scheduling issues next season when we're playing in the Champions League. Oh, please, Jesus, baby Jesus. Sambi Lokonga, who I have been an admirer of. He's a very special young man. You don't get made captain of Anderlecht at 21 by Vincent Kompany and get recommended to the Arsenal by Thierry Henry if you are not a special player. I agree with what James was saying too about these are your future. You got to give them a chance. What's your take on Sambi stepping in? Partey, we don't know how long he's going to be out. Josh, what's your take on Sambi? This is a massive, massive chance for him, is it not?
Oh, definitely. It is the chance that goes into next season, which competition he's the one that he's starting in. Because if we end up in Europa League, then we know that he'll play every single game there. But if he has a good run whilst Thomas Partey's not there, then it's a question for Arteta is if we make Champions League, who's the one that's starting in those big games? Is it Partey or is it Sambi? And I think it's an opportunity for him, definitely. One thing that I've done that was quite purposeful with my formation is I've reverted back to the 4-2-3-1 that we played under for a while before we.
I was going to get there next with both of you.
Yeah. I was very particular in what I did there. I thought Sambi necessarily doesn't have the experience to be playing that lone six role that he wants to play in the role that Partey was playing against Palace. So I'd have someone closer to him. It would then allow Odegaard a bit more space. And also I think the way that Brighton would play, they're going to have a lot of technical players in that midfield. And I don't necessarily want one running consistently at Sambi. I want him to have an outball that's closer to him, which is one of the reasons we saw Partey struggle, was because he didn't have Xhaka as close to him as normal. You know, could play that sideways pass. I know how much we all hate that quote-unquote sideways pass.
Well,
it's a lot
Demsex just said he can't believe it's come out of his mouth too.
Yeah, but I think it's that thing that would you rather see a sideways pass? Would you rather see the Thomas Partey performance that we saw at Palace where the sideways pass isn't on? And I think that's what we'll need to see. And it's even more important if Nuno is coming back in, because you need Xhaka in that quadrant of the pitch to make sure he's covering left back, because he doesn't necessarily need to do that as much when Tierney's there, but does when Nuno is. So those are the main differences that I'd like to bring in. Sambi, I agree with you. So he has got buckets full of talent, and he has also got an attitude to go along with it as well. Unlike a certain Mr. Frenchman who now plays for Marseille and isn't one of our players anymore, they've already bought him. Don't need to cry about him. We can cry about the centre-back who, you know, we let out on loan and has done so well that he is now in the French national team. I think that's a loan working out well rather than us wasting a talent. But yeah, Sambi, I think, looks like he's got a great head on his shoulders. It looks a bit more polished than Nuno. And I think, yeah, that's what I'd want to bring is this is an opportunity for him.
Yeah, you're not captain of Anderlecht if you're not polished. James, I wanted you to talk about your formation too and how you've got the team set up. And I'd love to hear your take on Sambi. I did a show last night where I did 5 things to still be happy about this season. And my number 5 was opportunity. Now, whether that opportunity, it comes out of, we don't want Tierney or Partey to be injured, but opportunity arises for players when those things happen. Sambi is one of them. This is a very big moment for him. And again, stepping into those kinds of shoes, because Partey, prior to the Palace game, had been fantastic the last 2 months. You know, that was the player that we wanted to see. Whether Pepe gets a chance coming off the bench, whether it's Nuno at left back, opportunity, but Sambi in particular, and then explain tactically a little bit more how you've got the team set up versus Josh.
Yeah, so basically, it's sort of the same as what Josh said. I would keep them as close as I can, instead of having this where you know, someone goes at the base and then you have Odegaard and either Xhaka or Sambi playing as this high 8. Because if you want to do that sort of thing, then let Tavares move a little bit further forward and let Xhaka come back, like Josh said again, to cover that left back space. Because that's one thing that people don't, you know, worry about Nuno is how he's going that way. It's more so how he goes back. So I think, and like I said earlier, we're a team like Brighton who are a bit down in the dumps. These two could come in here, do something, even if they get an assist, just something that might galvanise them a bit more than what I said. I hope they've been galvanised all week in training. And then once all that happens, they might go on a run. I know it's hypotheticals and we don't like to deal in hypotheticals.
I love playing the what if game. Kev hates it.
Oh, well,
whenever I
go.
do a what if episode, he's not. He hates it.
You just never know. One question I have for both of you is in both the teams that we've picked, Lacazette's been dropped. Who's your two going to pick as captain? Who do you both want? I reckon all three of us have got the same actually, but I'll see.
For me, in terms of captain, I think it's got to be Benjamin White.
Okay, we've got different.
or Odegaard.
I nearly pushed some buttons there, then I remembered that we've got Odegaard in the team because I very nearly went with number 34, who I thought might be captain.
I was just about to say, career suicide for the manager if we.
That's a really great question, James. By the way.
Yeah, I said Odegaard earlier. I was like, give it to him. Just give it to him.
I think that's where it would go, wouldn't it? Through the hierarchy anyway. If Tierney's not there and Lacker's not there, then I think it would drop to Odegaard. I think it's just a relief that we don't do the Juventus model, which is based on the number of games they've played for their club, because then it would go to Xhaka.
Yeah.
I just think after what happened last time, and, that narrative got spun, I was one of the spinners because at the time it felt like he was refusing the armband, but basically, the players were following the hierarchy. I think it was Eddie that just did a piss poor job of getting the armband to where it needed to be, which kind of allowed that to ensue a little bit. So James, you're going with Odegaard?
Yeah.
And Josh, the same?
Yeah.
And me too. Benjamin White or Odegaard cannot be Xhaka. We just can't keep taking steps backwards when we're moving forwards in so many ways. Real quick before I get to your predictions and we get the heck out of here, is does Eddie get a chance? Is he I'm assuming he would come on as a sub. Nobody in chat has challenged or even suggested to either one of you about Eddie starting up front over Emile Smith-Rowe or Martinelli, James and Josh. It's the quietest you've been. Cricket's cricket.
I was waiting for James to come in before I made some kind of cynical cutting comment.
If Lacazette's on the bench, he's clearly going to be the first option you pick.
Right.
If not Pepe.
I'd say if I'd put Rob Holding up front, people wouldn't be saying, where's Eddie Nketiah? Where he is right now. However, what I would say is this is the kind of game, and it's the kind of opposition, to be honest, where Nketiah could get a goal. It's the level he should be playing at against Brighton or even for Brighton, is that kind of level where he should be showing himself as a finisher in the box. Because that's where I expect his level to be at. That if he's looking for a move, I mean, come on, friends.
Brighton's a good move. Nice place to live as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an expensive place to live.
Yeah.
Just got pre-show.
Yes.
But it's one that is definitely an opportunity. And you know what? If he's going to try and find a club to go to and he wants to still play in the Premier League or even in England, he's going to have to show that he can score goals at this level. So at some point, Eddie, you've got to put one in. And I will be very happy if he does it at Brighton.
That would be amazing. That would be.
There's an opportunity for him there. And I think based on our fixtures, it's an option for
all right, let's get your. I do think that Arteta will stick with Lacazette. I do think Martinelli will come in. I think Emile Smith-Rowe will start on the bench. I don't know if he'll take a risk and take away lethal weapon in Saka up front, put him at left back and start Pepe. That would be an absolute shocker to me, more shocking than the ending of The Sixth Sense for sure. But we shall see. Right, James Johnson. What is your prediction for the game against Brighton?
I think we're going to recover for now, and I think we're going to win 2-0.
All
right, 2-0 says James. Josh?
Yeah, I was going to say if score early, 3-0. Don't score early, it could be a bit of a ball fest. Could be a 1-0. But I don't see Brighton scoring, to be honest. I haven't seen Brighton scoring for a while. They'll get plenty of shots. Don't worry about that. There'll be plenty of shots, but none of them will be close to going in. We won't feel worried. I say that we'll lose 2-0 now, but yeah, I can't see. I can't see a scoreline where Brighton are scoring, to be honest.
I can't have a Welbeck rounding Ramsdale like he did De Gea and then celebrating in front of I can't take that, I'm afraid. So
gosh,
yeah.
it
Don't
would
worry.
be sod's law. Is he
will
fit?
celebrate. He will defo celebrate as well.
Yeah, I mean, it would be typical for him to score, wouldn't it? When was the last time he got a goal in the Premier League? Probably
I was there
last year.
He's got one this season.
Oh,
He's
he
got
has?
a couple this season. He's Brighton's best striker. Put it that way. With the Neil Mope fans. Neil Pope. Yeah, Neil Mope won't be fans of that one, but this is the opportunity for it. The thing that holds him back is Graham Potter won't pick him. It will be Trossard and Mope that will start up front.
Yeah. Okay, so a few people have gone for my score, including Mr. Bungle and Bonzo and Ayushman. I'm going for a 4-0. I'm going for a massive recovery and Martinelli to score a brace. I think, Ødegaard needs to get back to scoring, and instead of making that extra pass, I expect him to get his shooting boots on. We're going to have a lot of opportunities and shots at goal, I believe. Maybe even a set-piece goal from a corner. Gabriel needs to get back in the game, be a little bit more dominant and in the air from set pieces as well. I fancy us to bounce back. I expect us to bounce back. This is where Mikel Arteta has to earn his crust. This is where these players have to show that they've overcome a hump. We cannot regress again. We have to move forward. When people talk about trusting the process, this is it. We are in the process now. And you can't keep telling people to trust the process if you do not make process and progress and move on and move forward and capture these moments and illustrate that mentally you're a strong team. You can bounce back. You can overcome adversity. This is it. Arteta has a really big job on his hands. Tierney's injured. Partey's injured. He better have those young players ready to roll, as you guys said,
Tommy
as
Yasu's
well.
injured as well, don't forget.
And Tommy Yasu is still injured too.
Long 3 weeks, isn't it?
Very long 3 weeks. But I tell you, credit to Cedric, who has come in and done a solid job. I don't think we've played badly or lost games because of Cedric at all. And people were super afraid about that. So this is it. This is the game at home fans. Get behind the team. Don't get frustrated. They're going to rely on you. They're going to need you. You've been brilliant all season. This is the time for Arsenal Football Club to shut down the noise and quiet the chaos from some in the media and some pundits trying to suggest that we're going to choke. This is the time. 3 years in, now is the moment. No excuses. Every team deals with injuries. You've got to make it count. Right. That's all we've got time for today, boys and girls. You can follow Josh here, Josh the Cumin 23, and when he fancies it, you can find him on a Burkamp Wonderland, but I can never remember that handle anymore because you guys have changed it.
At the AFC Podcast. I don't think it's changed.
Okay.
It's always been at the AFC Podcast. We got in there first. That's how old
corrected.
we are.
You old
unless
geezers.
Danny changed it this week. Who knows?
Just to lock you guys out. LL Cool James 91. Where else can they catch you, James?
Yeah, just purely Arsenal FP, although, we've had a bit of a rough recording schedule with everything going on. So,
yeah. Well, you guys will be
I'm coming back, like
Lovely.
the team, I'm coming back.
Brilliant. Excellent stuff. And as promised, here's the picture of Jags with his signed and framed winning Kieran Tierney shirt. I'm sure that he's probably going to win the Patrick Vieira one tonight and go into the draw to win the Tony Adams one too. Well done once again, Jags. Don't forget, you can find great stuff at footballprizes.co.uk. Thanks to Super Kev for his awesome questions. Kev says we'll be back tomorrow with a bit of a twist, so you won't want to miss that either. Until then, have a safe night. Enjoy the rest of the football. Thank you, boys, for hanging out with me. At ease, squaddies. At ease. Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad. Ba, ba,